It must be, without a doubt, the most famous judgment of the US Supreme Court, the one that guarantees the right of a woman to have an abortion. It's an historic decision that dates right back to 1973 and concerns the battle between Jane Roe and the state of Texas. The young woman of just 21 was pregnant for a third time and wanted now to have an abortion. But as in 45 other American states, the law in Texas forbade it. So she linked up with two feminist lawyers who seized upon her case as a symbolic one to fight all the way to the Supreme Court. It took 3 years of legal wrangling before the court gave its final decision, a large majority, 7 for, 2 against. The law recognising abortion as a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution based on her freedom of personal choice in family matters. Well, the law hasn't been overturned in 46 years, but the question continues to divide opinion. Little by little, local policies are nibbling away at the federal law. The clinics which carry out abortions are closing one after another, and abortion can no longer be paid for with federal funding. And the Supreme Court has become majority conservative since the nomination of 2 new judges by Donald Trump. So nearly half a century after the decision of Roe versus Wade, is the right to abortion really at risk in the US? The front line of the battle is seen in the state of Alabama. Sophie Prishodny and Manon Hertel revisit Roe versus Wade for France 24.
This red hooded cloak has become their unifying symbol, their sign of resistance, inspired by Margaret Atwood's dystopian novel where women are reduced to objects of procreation. These handmaids have embodied the fight for the right to abortion in Alabama.
But that picture was
all over the world.
It was all over the world.
It went viral. But this is us standing in front of the State House protesting that decision that was made that day.
These feminist activists have been crusading since May 15th. On that day, Alabama passed the abortion ban bill. Even in cases of rape or incest, doctors could face up to 99 years in prison. The bill is under review by the Supreme Court.
Well, we have to let people know that we're not going to back down. We are going to continue doing what we do. And this has to continue to be right for people. And just because that decision was made that day does not mean that it was final that day. So we wanted people to know that abortion is still legal and that women can, pregnant people can access abortion still. So we flew a plane to make sure that people understood this.
Abortion is still legal because it's protected by the Constitution, but it is vilified by the Bible.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death.
Conservative states like Alabama may be sounding the death knell of Roe v. Wade and put an end to 46 years of this holy war.
Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
I'm proud that we have the strongest ban against abortion, and I pray that it will rise all the way up to the Supreme Court and they will hear it. And life will return to fruitfulness and sweetness and the way America used to be before Roe v. Wade. So we've been praying ever since, and we will continue to pray until that happens.
Roe v. Wade is weakened bit by bit and ultimately is losing ground. 500 federal laws were voted to restrict it since the ruling.
Living your whole life wondering about the child, the sin that you committed, the murder of your own baby.
In just a few months, 9 states have tightened their restrictions on the practice. The right to an abortion may be approaching its final days in the United States.
The right recognized in Roe versus Wade, that is, that women have a fundamental constitutional right to abortion, has been changed, and they no longer possess that right. Nevertheless, we are gratified by the court in that they did not go as far as they could have gone in taking away rights from all American women.
In 1992, the Supreme Court created an opening to overturn Roe v. Wade. It allows states to restrict the ways in which abortion is carried out, provided that they do not impose an undue burden on the patients.
A number of extraordinarily burdensome restrictions, waiting periods, requirements that doctors discourage the abortion choice.
Catherine Colbert was hired as a lawyer to represent Planned Parenthood in Pennsylvania, fighting to uphold the right to an abortion.
I was happy, but I understood that we were at the precipice, that the right to choose abortion was hanging by a thread. Alabama is just one of many, many restrictions that gives the court the opportunity to send this completely back to the states, give it a green light, allow recriminalization, allow doctors to be prosecuted, in some cases allow women to be prosecuted.
The Supreme Court could put to death the very same right to which it gave birth. President Trump has appointed 2 anti-abortion judges to the bench, swinging the pendulum to the right. Linda Greenhouse watched this power struggle unfold over 30 years in the heart of Washington.
Most of the Republican presidents who've been elected in the last few decades since abortion became a political issue were pro-choice. One example would be George H.W. Bush, whose parents were among the founders of Planned Parenthood. And he was not against abortion until he was, for political purposes.
To help pay for the abortions for young women who are victims of rape or incest, are you ultimately opposed, or is there some room for compromise?
Yes, I'm opposed, and we'll see what we can do in terms of the conference committee to see if there is room for flexibility. Yeah, John?
His son was the same, George W. Bush. I guess the most hypocritical of all, however, has to be the current president, Donald Trump, who was a typical New Yorker. New Yorkers are very progressive, but once it became expedient for him, he's against abortion.
Galvanized by Trump's presidential campaign, the religious right is now on the offensive. In the southern states, where 3/4 of the population is Protestant, accessing abortion clinics has become a strenuous experience.
They're all conservative or Christian stations. It's nothing, or Jesus music. No, it's normal music. It's a miracle.
All hell broke loose 1 year ago. Ever since Bianca volunteered at an abortion clinic in Alabama, she says she has been harassed by anti-abortion activists.
You know, they have slashed my tires, they've keyed my vehicles, they believe in justifiable homicide, so we've had to move because of them coming to our old house. This is getting really close to my house, so can you stop filming? Okay, there we go.
Bianca was born just after Roe v. Wade. Today, she is married with 2 children and never thought she would have to defend a right recognized by the Constitution.
Well, the reason that I got started with escorting is because my daughter had to have a procedure done while I was in Europe. And the things that she told me, that they said to her, and the things that are stuck in her psyche were horrible. So I went out there and I decided that day, the first day that I volunteered, that I would never let another woman go in there and have to go by herself and have to listen to this kind of vitriol and this hatred.
The next day, at 5 a.m., in the parking lot of the clinic.
Everything is fine, and you're gonna be okay.
Bianca is on the path to war.
Guys, trust in Jesus and love your baby.
But anti-abortion protesters are also in position.
If they really hate abortion, they really want to stop abortion, wrap this place around with some yellow tape, make sure nobody's here, bring in bulldozers and destroy the place. That's what they need to do, because they're killing babies. Just like over, in Europe with the Holocaust. Same thing.
Bianca has armed herself with a radio to drown out the screams and an umbrella as a barrier between patients and protesters.
Hi, good morning. We work at the clinic. We're just here to escort you in. All the protesters are out there and they are recording, so I'm gonna walk you in behind the umbrellas. Come on. All right, just ignore him. Do you guys have a long drive?
Your child is about to be ripped into pieces. Your baby is going to be dismantled.
limb from limb, sir. This child's feet, its legs, its arms are about to be ripped off.
Okay. All right, we're gonna get you in here. Okay, you can walk right in the door. There you go. Oh, shut up.
And reproductive health services. And you have to have 2 visits. Alabama law does require that, and it means you can return for the abortion actually on Friday.
Inside the clinic, only one doctor is present. As a security measure, she will not reveal her identity. Between bomb threats and murdered surgeons, the clinic is having a hard time recruiting more doctors.
Scanning them. Our hair's been on fire for a long time and people are just noticing. There's lots of reasons why doctors in Alabama don't do abortions. The hospital or the medical practice they've rented from have restrictions and say that they can't do it, that they will fire them or they won't be able to work where they're working if they also provide abortion care. Until very recently, there was no training for new doctors to learn how to do abortion.
17 women came in for an abortion that day. A friend who accompanied one of these women anonymously testifies outside the clinic.
She's single, she's not in a relationship. It was sort of an accident. She got pregnant. She doesn't have any family. She's also not financially able to raise the baby by herself.
How did she feel at this moment when she saw the protest?
She was very overwhelmed. Like, she knew they would be here, but she didn't expect it to be so bad.
A few minutes later, her friend comes out discreetly, fearing she'll be photographed, exposed, and attacked by pro-lifers over social media.
I don't think it's appropriate. It would have been very difficult if the clinic was closed because we would have had to try to figure out something else or possibly have a child that we're not wanting or prepared for. And everyone has abortions for their own choices, and I think everyone should respect that because it's that individual person's choice and their body.
But in Alabama, 65% of residents said they would want to go back in time and overturn Roe v. Wade. The man at the origin of Alabama's abortion bill passed by the Senate is the founder and president of the Alabama Pro-Life Association, a position he's held for the last 30 years. Eric Johnston believes victory is near.
The way we drafted the Alabama bill is to say the unborn child is a person. And in the 46 years since Roe was decided, we have ultrasound it was rudimentary back then. We have fetal photography that was rudimentary back then. We didn't even have heartbeat evidence back then. And other biological and medical facts that we can prove to show that the unborn child is a person and should be entitled to protection of law. Now, we think that balance of the court is switched over, that there's 5 votes against abortion.
The Supreme Court has not yet given a date for the law's review. In the meantime, Christian organizations have taken the lead.
International, and this is Share Life Today on Faith Radio. Do you want to learn to share?
Sarah works for one of them. She takes us to a center that looks very similar to a Planned Parenthood clinic.
How are you? How can we meet women on the sidewalk and say, hey, you don't have to have an abortion. We have to be able to offer them resources and services to show them why. And so that's where Lisa comes in.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. He or she is active.
Here, all medical care and exams are free, but are aimed at one specific purpose: to renounce abortion.
Oh, there's the heartbeat. Awesome. Anywhere from 80 to 90% of the time when they see and hear the heartbeat, it can influence that decision in a positive way. So.
You agree with that?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I think it just makes it feel real. When you see it in there, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really happening and this is really inside of me. It kind of changes everything. It changes your perspective on everything.
She's gonna keep the baby.
Oh, yes. Yes.
More than 50 centers like this one exist in Alabama.
Hey guys, good morning, everybody.
Compared to nearly 3 abortion clinics, a 4th one is expected to open here, but the daily pressure of pro-lifers makes the project difficult.
It will close down just like every other clinic in Birmingham has closed down over the years. At one time, there were 7 abortion clinics here. There are none now?
Yeah, I would love to see the end of abortion in my lifetime, and I think I can. I think I will, actually, because my generation is starting to grow more fond of life, more fond of celebrating life, and seeing abortion as more of what it is. It's ending a human life, and that's not okay.
'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear.
Roe v. Wade seems already buried in this part of America. The entire country appears to be changing. The abortion rate continues to decline. It has dipped below 1 million. This hasn't happened since 1973.
Sophie Prochodny and Manon Hurtel revisiting Roe versus Wade for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Don't forget, of course, you can catch it and all the previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.